Make it Monday because it'll be a long day.
Michael, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. Hubert, with this being the Jimmy V Classic, I was curious, what are some of your memories of competing against Coach Valvano when he was at NC State and you were playing here?
Well, I just remember playing at Reynolds Coliseum. You know, so many people ask me what was the toughest place to play. When I played at Carolina on the road, and without hesitation, it was at NC State, Reynolds Coliseum. It's just the crowd was right on top of you. It was the most difficult place for me in terms of the atmosphere. So much so that in the 4 years, I never scored in the first half. And so my senior year, I wanted to win, but I wanted to score in the first half, and I tried everything, and I still couldn't. So every point that I scored against NC State my entire career over there was all in the second half. I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't score in that first half basket. But and then towards the end of my career, he announced a number of our games, and so just being able to get to know him, as a coach, and then after he finished coaching was something that I really enjoyed.
Hubert, what are some of the main challenges that UConn presents when you kind of look at them on tape? Obviously, they just lost a close one to Kansas, but when you look at their tape, what are some of the main challenges they present?
Well, they've got tremendous athleticism and size, and so they do a really good job of protecting the paint. Because of that size, it's very difficult to get consistent points in the paint, whether it's post, penetration, and offensive rebounding. They're really good defensively. Very physical. They get to the offensive glass. They're good in transition. In their half-court sets, when they're able to execute, they do a good job at executing their plays. They got a lot of movement and guys that have the ability to knock down shots. So, there's a reason why they're defending national champions and why it'll be a tough test for us tomorrow night.
Yeah, but when you're measuring pace, what do you guys look to as sort of the key numbers as a staff to determine if you're playing the pace you want statistically?
Yeah, I'm not really that much of a stat guy. Looking at, I can tell whether we're playing at a good pace or not. So, like, for example, I felt like at the beginning of the game against Florida State, I felt like our pace was good, and then halfway through the first half and the beginning of the second half, I didn't feel like our pace was very good at all. And probably the determining factor that I look at it is, how we're doing on the defensive end, how we're rebounding the basketball. I feel like if we get stops and get the rebound, that's when I feel like, we've got a good pace in terms of transition, and we got guys, our wings running, our bigs running down the middle of the floor and pitching the ball ahead. So, in terms of like numbers, I don't have a number or a metric that I look at, but I can tell whether or not that I feel like that we're moving at the pace that I want to, whether it's in transition or it's in our half-court set.
And we've seen you motioning, go.
I'm gonna go faster.
Yeah, I mean, kind of this, you've got a handful of games in where you are moving faster, but, coaches are never satisfied. It's kind of, what do you feel like you've accomplished as far as improving pace and tempo versus how much you think this group can grow in that?
I think it can grow even more in terms of pace. One of the things I mention to the team all the time is I want to be the fastest team from free throw line to free throw line. Obviously, in our primary break, we're looking for a layup or a dunk or a deep post catch, or let's get fouled, get to the free throw line, or a quick open three by our best three-point shooters. If we don't have that, then let's just flow right into our offense. And once we get into our offense, I want to run that with purpose and pace. And so, just for example, it was very difficult a little bit on Saturdays because one of the things that Florida State does that a lot of teams don't do is they pick up and deny even your outlet passes. So, that could stop a break. And so that was something different that we had to adjust to. But I want to go. I want to be fast, and even after made baskets, I want to get the ball out quick, and I want to get it into early offense as quickly as we can.
RJ said the other day that he's getting more comfortable, not always being on the ball, playing a little bit more too, and also playing with Elliott. How have you seen his comfort being out there with Elliott, and are his shots better? Is he getting a higher quality of shot now because he's getting more catch and shoot stuff, and he can find his spots a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, one of the unique things about RJ, and there's very few players in the country that have the ability to do what RJ can do. He's a gifted playmaker and scorer with the ball in his hands, and he can also do it without the ball in his hands. So like he can create and make shots with the ball, but he can also use and come off screens. He does a terrific job of moving without the basketball. He's a complete basketball player. You know, in regards to, you know, having Elliott and RJ and Seth in the game at the same time, and I've always said that I love and I want as many and playmakers out there on the floor as possible, and for the most part, against Florida State, we had all three of them in a lot in the second half, but I like to have at least 2 point guards on the floor at all time. As many guys that can create shots on the offensive end as you can, that's what I love and that's what I like to coach.
Are the quality of his shots so far better than what he was getting last year?
I don't think of it in terms of like comparing to last year. I don't think about last year at all, but I think the shots that he is getting this year are good shots. I do. I think he's getting quality shots, good looks at the basket, and one, I think it's because of RJ. Two, I think it's one of the things that we've emphasized this year is doing a better job of setting screens and how important it is to get your teammate open. We even keep a stat now called screen assists. Not just assists, but how many screen assists can you get, and so our guys have really caught on to that, and then, just how we're sharing the basketball. But I agree with you. I think, the field goal attempts that RJ is getting, they're good looks every time, and I always believe if good shooters get good looks, most of the time they're gonna make them.
Hubert, along those lines with RJ, talking to Armando the other day after FSU, he said that he told RJ earlier this season, this is his team. I believe the quote was, "We're all just falling in line." Like when you hear that from a guy like Armando, do you think for your group, whether it's verbalized or not, that's happening, that he is sort of leading and everybody's falling in line, and just what do you think about that dynamic?
Well, I think one, it's our team, or it's their team.
Sure.
And so we're all in this together. I hesitate to, this is my team, this is his team, this is their team. We're all in this together, and everyone has to bring all their individual gifts and talents together to see what we can do to become the best team that we can possibly be. In terms of RJ this year, where his growth has been in how comfortable he is in terms of leading. I've never seen him as vocal as in terms of talking to guys and getting everybody on the same page on and off the court during practice. If things aren't going well, whether in a game or practice, he's talking in the huddles. I mean, it's just his communication and his comfort level and confidence in being able to have a voice within his own personality has been a major difference. And so I love it. I'm glad that he feels comfortable and confident enough to be able to do that this year.
Right. And this is all going on while Harrison's screaming, Cormac's screaming, like those guys are like losing their minds with their intensity.
They are, and I love it.
Right.
I invite that. I just remember the first year with Brady, and it was just screaming all the time, but it was good screaming. I like that type of communication. I just do, and I encourage it. And during practice, games, and in huddles, I want those guys expressing, using their personality, and I'll use my personality, and we're all headed in the same direction.
What are some of the challenges that a guy like Donovan Clingan can kind of present? Being 7'2", it's not like you go up against a guy that size every night.
Well, Florida State had some size at every position, but you're right. UConn, that size from a defensive standpoint really clogs up the lane and makes it difficult to get consistent points in the paint. It just does. Whether you're coming off ball screens in transition, trying to straight post up, having that length and size makes it more difficult. And then on the offensive end, their ability to throw it down to the post and be able to score consistently around the basket is also something that we're going to have to deal with tomorrow night as well. And, he's getting better every game. He's more confident, obviously getting more playing time this year, and he's just a really good player.
Harrison has been one of the key guys on this team. He played 37 minutes against Florida State, 1 minute behind RJ for the team lead in that game. Did you envision him being such a huge part of your daily lineup when you were bringing him in here?
Yes, I mean, he's, one of the things, I mean, not one of the things, but, I'm so thankful that he's here, from an offensive standpoint, because of his size, he can play multiple positions, and his versatility of being able to score in a post and pass and shoot the ball from the outside and handle a basketball, that's a huge benefit for us offensively and on the defensive end. His versatility defensively, being able to guard many positions, and so his leadership, and you mentioned Harrison and just how vocal he is. His emotions are coming out because I think he's just so happy to be here. He's just so excited to be on this stage and having an opportunity to perform on this stage that it's just a natural emotion of it coming out, and so I love it, and I'm glad that he's here.
A quick follow-up. You mentioned earlier you wanted your guys to play faster. When I talked to Harrison earlier in the year, he said he describes himself as a slow, methodical player where he likes to analyze each step. Do you think that...
He can do that, just have to do it faster.
do you think he has the basketball IQ and the ability to do that? I mean, is there a way that he can do that?
He has been doing that, and that's his job and requirement. So yeah, I love being thoughtful and methodical, and but you're gonna have to do it at a fast speed, and he's been able to do that. He's in the best shape of his life, and he's just been really good for us this season.
You talked
A
about.
few more, and we get RJ in here.
You talked about, ways UConn can test y'all, but on the flip side, what do you think you bring to the table where you could test them?
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's no, I think we're really good in transition. That stems from us being able to rebound. I think we average a little under 40 rebounds a game, and they're averaging 42 rebounds a game. So that's going to be a huge part. And tomorrow, who's able to control the boards? When we're able to control the boards, it gets us out in transition, and when our pace is where I think it should be. I think from an offensive standpoint, we're pretty good. We share the ball. We always good to great. We're unselfish. And another thing that we're doing really well is we're getting to the free throw line. So we're attacking the basket through post, penetration, offensive rebound, and it's allowing us to get to the free throw line and making free throws. And so my hope is that we can do that very well tomorrow night.
I want to ask about Elliott. Obviously, being a UNC point guard comes with a steep learning curve. A lot of freshmen have really struggled. How, in a very small sample size, how has he navigated that so well?
Well, Elliott is, he's a terrific player, but, I think you can see the first second he gets on the floor, everything is all about team. It's just, you talk about his, our guys' reactions. Look at Elliott's reaction when he sees a teammate score after he passes the ball. It's a great example of how he's just instinctively thinking team first. And it's always an adjustment. I don't care how talented you are, coming from high school to playing at this level is always adjustment, but I think he's done it really well, and as well as, all of our other players have done a good job of it also.
Tristan Newton kept them in the game the other night at Kansas for a long stretch. Seems like he's got just kind of everything in his bag. What are the primary challenges in dealing with a guy like that?
Yeah, he's a big guard, and I think before the Kansas game, he had been struggling a little bit shooting the ball from the outside, but then I think he was 6 of 9 from 3 in a lot of late clock situations. I think one-on-one, being able to create a shot because of his skill level, because of his size, he has the ability to be able to create good shots, late clock situations anytime in the offense. He has a confidence about him of obviously being a national champion and being in those big time environments, and so it's going to be a challenge for us to be able to keep him out of the paint, keep down his assists, contain him in terms of shooting the ball from the outside, but he's also a really good offensive rebounder. And so, you know, when we talk about rebounding, it's got to be 1 through 5. They'll crash the offensive boards even from the point guard position. And so, excited about our guys competing against him. He's one of the better guards in the country.
2 more, Adam, and then second row, and then we're done.
Hubert, we know how you feel about New York and the Garden.
I do. I love it.
Some of us really love those stories. Remember watching those teams back in the day. Give us a good, like Starks, Mason, Oakley. I mean, for yourself, you were a Boy Scout growing up, obviously. These were some bad dudes that you played with.
I didn't want to get, when I came out, I knew I was going to get picked around the 20s in the first round, and I wanted to get picked by the Phoenix Suns because that's where my uncle played, and I thought that would be really cool to play with Charles Barkley and Dan Marley. My second choice was the Boston Celtics because Rick Fox was there, and so I was like, I get to play with one of my best friends and play in the NBA. The last place that I wanted to be picked was the New York Knicks, and because of that reason, I saw them in the playoffs the year before, and I was like, they're going to break me in half. I was like, Patrick Ewing and Mason and Oakley and Starks, and I was like, those look like some of the meanest guys in the world.
And they're beating up Michael every year in the playoffs.
They're beating up Michael. What are they going to do to me? And I was really nervous about being a part of that team. And it's the best team I could have ever gone to. And I wish I could have played all 12 years with them. I absolutely loved playing for Coach Riley and Coach Van Gundy. And I loved playing for Patrick and Starks and Oakley. They were the best teammates I could have ever asked for. And I loved it there. I wish I could have spent my whole 12 years in New York. It was beautiful.
They put Starks on the video board last year. I know you didn't see it because did you ever see that?
No, I didn't,
Okay.
and I hope that I get to see him tomorrow night. I would just love to give him a hug, and my hope is to get to see some of the New York Knicks up there. It was great seeing Patrick when he was a head coach at Georgetown, and seeing Doc Rivers and Derek Harper and Charles Smith, and I would love to get us back together again. It was a team that I felt like was championship worthy, and we came up short my second year to the Houston Rockets, but those are some of my better friends still today, and so I love going up there, and I hope I get to see some of my former teammates.
Last one.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna follow along with my question. Dean Smith would always want to go up to New York
He
and
did.
play, and you played there with him. And what does it mean, our second year in a row, that Carolina's gonna be able to play at MSG? To these players, a lot of them from New York, Elliott and RJ. What does it mean to them?
Well, it means a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to them as well, and to all of our players, even if you don't come from the New York area. You know, you're right. You know, Coach Smith every year brought us, and we either played at Madison Square Garden or the Meadowlands. We always had 2 or 3 New York players on the team, and then with my history playing for the Knicks, it's just I want our guys to have that experience of playing in Madison Square Garden. It just has such a rich history in basketball, but other sports and concerts there. And so till this day, if you ask RJ and Armando and Seth and Jay Wash, what's the best environment, the best game that they ever played in, automatically they will say the game against Ohio State last year. And it's just, the Garden brings out something that just is not at any other place. And to be able to go there again and play against UConn tomorrow night is going to be a special night.
Thanks, everybody. We get RJ here momentarily.
See y'all.